Let's go! Myles Brennan out for the season. Ed Orgeron said it would be a miracle if he were able to come back. Why rush it? So we're going to investigate this from all angles. How should LSU divvy up the snaps? No matter how you slice it, this is a very good thing for the long term. We're going to get into that in just a moment, but first, oh my goodness, guys, the subscriber count keeps coming up. I want by this weekend to hit 1,500 so we can give out the Patrick Queen card, okay? We got an autographed LSU rookie card we're going to give out when we hit 2K, so go on ahead, subscribe, and of course you got to ring the bell, click all notifications, just in case the algorithm wipes me off the planet Earth. You won't ever miss a video. Let's do it. Let's go. And oh yeah, that Patrick Peterson film study, we're going to get into it. You guys had some spicy comments about that. We got to talk quarterbacks, okay? Because, of course, they're the quarterbacks. And Myles Brennan, in his first 3 games, was an historically good LSU quarterback just by the stats themselves. But the injury happened. And we're asking all types of questions of what Myles Brennan's future is going to look like at LSU. Now, I'm not wishing injury. I'm not happy that Myles Brennan got hurt. But it's a really good thing because at least you know from the 3 games that you saw Myles Brennan, he is a very capable SEC quarterback. But now, with the rest of these games, you get to figure out who's better, TJ Finley or Max Johnson, or at the very least, you get to see what their potential could actually be. Can they be better quarterbacks in the long term than Myles Brennan? Because Ed Orgeron's got a very difficult decision to make. So now you get a larger sample size. Remember that word we used on a video earlier this year? You get a pretty decent sample size now with TJ Finley and Max Johnson, and you know what Myles Brennan's going to bring to the table. But here's something else that's interesting that makes LSU a little bit different than Clemson and Alabama. So both of those programs know what they have at quarterback for the next 3 years. At Clemson, they have a 5-star backup by the name of DJ Uiagalelei. And I know that's tough to say, but I figured out how to say Tagovailoa, so Uiagalelei, there you go. And at Alabama, they have Bryce Young. Both of them were California rivals. They were both the highest-ranked 5-star quarterbacks. They both look incredible. So they have clarity at the quarterback position once Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones leave to the NFL next year. LSU doesn't have that. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have talent. It's just there's not a quarterback there for the next 2 or 3 years that clearly stands above the rest. And because LSU didn't get Caleb Williams for the class of 2021, they were close, but they didn't get him. They do have Garrett Nussmeier coming in this next class. Now, he is a very talented player, but he's not a 5-star. He's not on the Uiagalelei. I just love saying that. He's not on their level. Now, he could be better than all of them. It's just, as of right now, he's not a finished product. He's not the can't-miss next guy. So, by Myles Brennan actually being hurt, the good thing is you get to see what you actually have with TJ Finley and Max Johnson. Max, Goofy movie Max, and Mac is like Big Mac. Anyway, you get to see what you have. And by having more games, yes, of course, how you play as a true freshman is not a finished product, but at the very least, you get to see what they could potentially be. And as of right now, with TJ Finley and Max Johnson, we kind of know how both of those quarterbacks play. Obviously, TJ Finley is not as mobile as Max Johnson, but he can run. You look at him, I've seen all types of comparisons. A lot of people, because of the jersey number and frame, compare him to Dante Culpepper. I see him, best case scenario, as a Ben Roethlisberger type. And then Max Johnson, probably, Yeah, I know he's left-handed, but probably Steve Young would be his best comparison, but I'm not sure if he's as athletic as Steve Young. So that's your best case scenario. And then with Myles Brennan, who is better than those two quarterbacks, he cannot run. And obviously there are some quarterbacks who cannot run and still are very successful, but more often than not, the successful quarterbacks in this modern day and age can run. So if one of those guys plays really well, it kind of sucks for Myles Brennan, who's waited his turn in his 3 starts, played pretty well, and still ends up getting Wally pipped due to injury. That's very unfortunate. As of right now, though, Myles Brennan looks to be the starter of the future, but that's a good thing. Because he's getting some time to rest and heal up, Ed Orgeron gets to see if either one of these two guys should be the quarterback for next year. And by the way, this year, are we even going to play another game? There's no telling with this year. So with these games where you're already out of playoff contention or bowl game, whatever contention, you at least get to see what you have. And yeah, I hate that line of thinking. I want to win every game. I want the best players playing, but sometimes you have to face reality, and this for the long term is actually a really good thing. And heck, I mentioned Garrett Nussmeier. Heck, there's plenty of other good quarterbacks. Walker Howard is there for the class of 2022, and then in 2023, obviously, there's the Arch Manning domino. There's the Holstein kid who's a great talent. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped up for the future at quarterback. But something else, and we have not mentioned this yet, and I know this is not going to resonate with a lot of you because a lot of you like the quarterbacks that LSU currently has, and all 3 of them could be stellar SEC stars. But you are LSU. Are you getting where I'm going? The transfer window is always open. Remember that. D'Eriq King was out there. JT Daniels was out there. I don't know if Daniels is going to be any good, but obviously D'Eriq King has been one of the best quarterbacks in college football this year. Don't have to be an LSU fan to know LSU's history with transfer quarterbacks is obviously way better than with their homegrown quarterbacks. Now, that doesn't mean the answer is in the portal, but it could be. Worked out for the Burrow guy and, the Mettenberger guy, and Danny Etling was a really good quarterback. He didn't turn the football over. So, the transfer window's always there, and by playing the rest of these games out, you get to see if you need to hit the window. Alrighty, your comments. Jesse, appreciate the love from the film study yesterday. If you're, like I said, that video is not for everyone, only if you're a diehard LSU football fan, and only if you really loved you some Patrick Peterson, because I did. Look, here's his draft picks card. I just love this guy so much. This video was a lot of fun to do. It was giving me goosebumps, and the funny thing about it is, YouTube's telling me it's not performing as well as my other videos, and I know it takes some time to watch it. So if you want some LSU versus Alabama football to watch on Saturday, pop it open and check it out. Is Smith, as in DeVonta Smith, a better prospect than Henry Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy? So I'm actually going to include LSU players in this because obviously, last year you had Justin Jefferson along with Jeudy and Ruggs, and so far this year, Justin Jefferson's been better than both of them. Now, all 3 of them don't play with necessarily the best quarterbacks, but Justin's been the best despite being selected the lowest. But I want to discuss, Jamar Chase's draft stock along with Terrace Marshall, along with DeVonta Smith and Jalen Waddle. And I want this to be known that sometimes it's not necessarily who the most talented receiver is. It oftentimes goes to who you actually go to. I didn't word that the best, but you get my point. Where you end up really matters. For instance, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Patrick Queen went to really good franchises. One went to an all-time great offense. One went to a historically great defensive franchise. And, they're both phenomenal. So, obviously, when you're talking about NFL draft prospects, I'm most interested in Terrace Marshall simply because he played alongside Jamar Chase, and now he's proving to be a really good number one option as well. So I think Terrace Marshall's made himself a lot of money. Now, it's interesting because DeVonta Smith technically is such a great receiver, and a lot of you from the Amead area love this guy, even though he did end up going to Alabama. I think he'll end up being pretty good, but if I had to rate the receivers going into the NFL draft now, I would put it Jamar Chase, then Jalen Waddle, then DeVonta Smith, and then Terrace Marshall. But I think all four of them will fall in the first 2 rounds. Also, shout out to Antonio. He was the one that was super fired up about the film study. It's power, our LSU. Boom! Woo! Got some leftover pizza. Let's go.